Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I am going to be doing my January wrap up for 2023, the first monthly wrap up of the year, which is so exciting. I started the year off reading some really good books. I found probably one of my favorite romance books of all time this month, so I think we had a pretty good reading month. Should I be doing schoolwork right now? Absolutely. Did I take a break to film this video? Absolutely. If you see a glare in my glasses, I have a light on, because if I don't have it on, the lighting will be terrible. I read 12 books this month, which is really good. I know in December I read 15 books and I still can't wrap my head around how I read that many books. So my first read of 2023 was Four Aunties and a Wedding by Jessica Sutanto. This is the sequel. It's the second book to the Dial A for Aunties little thing. And honestly, I know a lot of people don't like this book compared to the first one, but I honestly loved this one more than Dial A for Aunties, which is such an unpopular opinion. But what happens in this book is Medi gets married. I'm not gonna say who because it's the romantic interest in Dial A for Aunties. She gets married, and obviously her aunts are in the wedding, and they decide to hire a whole new wedding caterers, and turns out the mafia gets involved. There's just so many things that went wrong in this book, and it felt like it was supposed to happen, like you knew it was coming, and it was just so funny. I honestly connected with the characters more in this book than I did with Dial A for Aunties. I just thought the characters were annoying in the first one, but I ended up loving them in this one, so it made me love the first book even more. I did rate this one 4 stars as well as Dial A for Aunties, and I was kind of debating between 4 or 4.5, but I was like, it didn't feel like that close to being a 5-star, but I did love this one more than Dial A for Aunties, but they're both 4 stars. It was so outrageous and it's so outlandish that you know that this would never happen, but that doesn't really matter. Like, I'm reading a book to escape the world, and this one was just so good for some reason. I don't know why I enjoyed it so much, but I did, and I had so much fun reading it, and I just loved the story that this took. This was a good start to the year, and I'm very thoroughly surprised. I also think I liked it more because I went in with very low expectations, because I knew not a lot of people loved this book, and I think that's why I loved it so much, because I went in thinking it was going to be terrible. The next book that I read was Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This follows Viv, and she used to be, what is it called? After a lifetime of bounties and bloodshed, Viv is hanging up her sword for the last time. So I'm not really sure what that makes her, but this is Viv. Big, strong girl. And she decides to move to the city of Thune, and she wants to open a coffee shop. And coffee is not known around these places, and so it just follows the story of her creating a coffee shop and making friends in this new city. And she's kind of closed off at first, but you see the character development throughout the story. And then she also has some little enemies, and a couple things go wrong because she has a hard past of enemies. And honestly, I did not expect this book to be how it was. I did not think it was going to be anything like what I read. But it was pretty boring at the beginning because it's not what I was expecting. And I don't know, I was expecting it to be more action-packed because she used to be a warrior and she has all these enemies. I don't know, it was just very calm. Obviously there was some I don't necessarily think action parts, but there was just some conflicts, and I don't know, it wasn't as high stakes as I thought it was. I did end up rating it 4 stars because I did really like the characters and the friends that she made. It felt like found family, and I did really connect with the characters in this, and I also think a romance was starting. I can't really remember. I don't really remember this book completely, but it was kind of boring, and I think it's because I went in with different expectations. If I knew exactly how this book would go, that it's not action-packed, and it's not it's just a couple conflicts. There's nothing super crazy that happens in this book. But it is an enjoyable time reading it. I did rate it 4 stars, but I'd honestly think I'd bring it down to a 3.53 because it's not one of my favorite fantasy books, but I'm happy I read it still because it's a different type of fantasy than I've ever read. Does that make any sense? The writing was also really weird. I don't think I'm ever gonna read another book by this author. I didn't love the writing. I mean, it was good, but it was also like sometimes things didn't flow super nicely. Like it would just cut to another scene where something was happening and it came out of nowhere. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about this book. I enjoyed it. It was entertaining, but it wasn't like amazing. So I honestly think I would bring it down to like a 3.5. Possibly my favorite book of the month was Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This book is... If you can't tell, I rated this 5 stars. It's so freaking good, and I will forever recommend this book to anybody. I'm so happy I read it. I'm so happy I started out January by reading this book. So freaking good. So this follows Nate and Anastasia. Anastasia is a figure skater, and Nate is a hockey player. I think he's the captain for his hockey team at college. He's a college hockey player. And something happens. They have to end up sharing a rink, and then something happens to Anastasia's skating partner, and then Nate has to end up being her partner. Anastasia, she's a little grump, and then he's like the golden retriever. He falls first, like a boy falls first, boy obsessed. And I loved this so much. I loved the banter. I loved the smut scenes. It was so freaking good. And it's just like, I don't know, everything that happened was like happened perfectly. And I loved the found family. I loved the friend group. I felt like I knew every single one of these characters personally. Like I felt like I was in the book. It was so good. It literally just had me reading every single second of the day because it was so freaking good. And like the communication, like if she was upset or something, Nate would be like, just talk to me, like what's wrong, like tell me your feelings. Like that is how a man should be. Nate, by far my favorite freaking book boyfriend. Number one. This may go down as one of my favorite reads of this year already. I already have the feeling that this is going to be one of my favorites because I still think about this book, and I read it at the beginning of January. I still think about this book. And also it's the first book of the UCMH series. So I'm going to be reading the next book. Just everything about this book is so good. I so recommend this. Hannah Grace's writing is so good. I think this is her like debut novel, and I will be reading every single one of her books following because I loved her writing. The next book that I read is Bruno Rising by Leigh Bardugo, the third and final book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I finally finished it. I'm so happy. I was just like waiting to finish this series, but I'm not gonna really tell you what this book follows because it'll obviously spoil the rest of the series. But this whole series is about Alina. She has these magical powers known as a sun summoner, and that's all I'm really gonna tell you because it's kind of hard to explain everything else. But it's in the Grishaverse, and there's Grisha, there's powers, there's a fantasy element. I don't know how I feel about this book. I'm not gonna lie, I did end up rating it 4 stars because the ending was really good. But the beginning of the book, so freaking boring. I wanted to DNF it so bad. I felt like I was going into a reading slump from this book. And then like 1/3 of the way through the book, I was starting to be like, okay, I'm enjoying this more. Like I want to keep going. And then you get to like this chunk, okay, I'm bored again. Like what is going to happen? And then the ending was really action-packed. There were so many things happening, and I really enjoyed the ending. Okay, not the ending, but like the ending action scene, but like the actual ending, I'm so mixed on. I don't think I like what happened, but I also understand why it had to happen and why it happened. I just wish it went a different way. I think I rated every book 4 stars, but I'd honestly say that this series is like a 3 star, 3.5 star. I don't know. I just get so mixed about them because I love the endings to every single one of the books. Like they really get me, and that's why they get upped in the star rating. But then the whole over this huge chunk right here is like the bulk of the story, and it's the most boring part of the story. And I'm just like, I don't know. Mal, I did not like him as a character the whole series. I just could not stand him. I did not like him until literally this last portion of the book. There was a character that you get introduced to in the second book, and I absolutely loved him in the second and this book as well. And then Alina, she was okay. Like, she is definitely not one of my favorite characters. She was kind of annoying at times and just so selfish. Like, she literally was like so self-obsessed with herself and putting herself as the victim in every single situation. So that's kind of why I was just, I don't know. The characters I liked at times, and then I couldn't stand at times. There's other series to read when starting out with fantasy, or even just reading fantasy, that I would recommend rather than reading this series. So, do I regret my time reading it? No. But would I read it again? Also, no. My next read was Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. I'm going to be talking about this book for a minute, I think. This book follows Sky and Dean, and it's a high school relationship. Dean thinks that, like, he knows Sky randomly because she's been homeschooled her whole life, and then she goes to public school and she sees Dean and he thinks she's somebody else, and then it starts a relationship between them. And there's times when this is like, the relationship is so toxic, I'm like, girl, just run. But then the plot twist was absolutely insane. I was like, what the heck is happening? Like, the plot twist was good. I was not expecting the plot twist to be that. I didn't think it was gonna be that. And it did get me, and at the time of reading it, I was really enjoying the second half. The first half was okay. Like, I connected with the characters. I connected with Sky. I didn't necessarily connect with Dean. I didn't love him. He's not like one of my favorite characters at the beginning, but like as time goes on, I really start to love him. And then Sky just annoys me in the last half, or in the last like fourth of the book. But I don't know. There's just something with Colleen Hoover now with me that, like, she's just not as enjoyable. My reading tastes have changed so much, and she is a really, really good author to read when you start out reading, because she knows how to get your attention, and she knows her writing is so easily, like, digestible. Like, it's just it's so easy to read. But now that my reading tastes have changed and I've read more, you know, confusing books, I guess you could say, I don't know, her writing style isn't something that I enjoy as much anymore. The plot twists are still, like, they're fun. Like, if you need a quick break from reading and you just need something so crazy, her books are good to read, but they just don't hit like they used to. And I hate saying that because I do enjoy Colleen Hoover as a writer. I think her writing style is very, again, easily digestible. Like, it's so easy to read and just escape into the book and finish so quickly. It's just a nice quick break from a very, like, heavy book or something. But I don't know, it's just something has changed with me and my views on her. Obviously Colleen Hoover readers and Colleen Hoover herself, she gets so much hate. I know that she had a huge scandal with trying to make It Ends With Us into a coloring book. Was definitely the wrong thing to do. Trying to get a money grab out of that, it was the wrong thing to do. And I think also reading this book at the time, I didn't know about it, and once I was like in the middle of reading the book, I saw it and I was like, ooh, shoot. There's so many people that have so many, like, valid opinions on why they didn't enjoy Colleen Hoover, and then same with Colleen Hoover readers. Like, they also have valid opinions, and I'm kind of stuck in the middle. Sometimes I really enjoyed her books, but most of the books that I've read by her so far, I've read when I started reading, and I've been reading for over 6 months now, like, continually reading, and I just think my reading style has changed. I did still rate this 4 stars, but I honestly would rate this book 3.5, I think, but I just rounded up to 4 stars. I may be over Colleen Hoover, which is kind of sad to say because she's the reason why I got into reading. Like, Colleen Hoover is the reason I love reading. The next book that I read is Fixer Up by Tessa Bailey. This is the first book in the Hot and Hammered series. There's 3 books, but this follows Georgie and Travis. They have known each other since they were kids. Georgie is known as, like, the class clown in her family, But so she made an entertainment business for kids' birthdays, and she's the clown, the literal clown at parties, which is so funny to me. And Travis he played Major League Baseball and then had an injury, ended his career, so he moved back home. And obviously he's in the ruts because he doesn't play his favorite sport anymore. And so Georgie shows up at his apartment and it's like, get your ass up. You need to get your life on. What are you doing? And she's always had a crush on him her whole life. And obviously he doesn't see her that way at first. And then he obviously does. And stuff like that. But I freaking loved Georgie. I loved her so much. She is just like, she has her own unique personality, which I love. She's quirky, if you'd say. But Travis literally annoyed me so many times in this book. He just was like, should I be with her or not? Like, I just have always seen her as my best friend's little sister. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not into commitment. And I'm like, you're annoying. Make up your mind. Like, ugh. And then when she would go do something, he would get so jealous. And I'm like, you're gonna drive me insane. Like, I hate when authors write about men that way. It's like, write a good man, not an annoying one. But I did end up loving their romance at the end. The third act conflict was so unnecessary. That is like becoming a pet peeve of mine in romance books. If the third act conflict doesn't make any sense, I'm like, why put it in? Like, we don't need the whole breakup, get back together at the end. Not every book needs that. So why put it in? Because it doesn't make sense. But overall, I rated this book a 4 stars. I did have obviously some issues with it, but yeah, overall really enjoyed it. I obviously want to continue on with the series. I'm so excited for the second one, which is about, I think, Rosie and Dominic, and I loved Rosie in this book. So I loved Tessa Bailey's writing. I loved how she started the book off like just right in the story. Like, you know how like some romance books start where the characters aren't even like talking to each other and stuff, and then it goes into them meeting each other. This one starts with Georgie literally right in his apartment. I'm like, this is amazing. The next book that I read is These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. My other 5-star read of the month. I absolutely devoured this book. I loved it. It did take me a little bit to read. I think it took me like 5 or 6 days to read, but this basically follows Bree. She's immortal. Her sister ends up getting kidnapped by the Unseelie court, and she travels to the Seelie court. The Unseelie's bad, and she travels to the Seelie court so she can try and find the portal to get to the Unseelie court to save her sister. But then, you know, the Unseelie court, what's it called? The Unseelie king finds her, kidnaps her, and is like, I want you to get these 3 things for me from the Seelie court, and I will give you your sister back. So what she has to do, she has to pretend to want to be a potential bride for Prince Ronan from the Seelie court. And so she gets to stay in the palace, obviously pretending to do this. And she also meets Finn. Finn and like some of his friends, they are part of the Unseelie court, but they're like misfits. So she joins them because he wants to help her. And she has a little love triangle between Finn and Prince Ronan. And oh my god, the romance in this book is so amazing. Like, oh my god, I don't even know who to root for. I love both of them equally. Like, the tension between both of them is just so freaking good. And obviously I have the second book on my February TBR, and I'm hoping to get to that this month because I am so curious on how it continues, because the cliffhanger that this book left me on was so freaking good. Literally one of my favorite fantasy romances. So amazingly good. Of course it was 5 stars. I love Bree so much. I love all of the characters in this. Like, I became attached to all of them, to the story, to literally everything. And it will make me cry thinking about this because this is so good. I wish this book, this world, was like 10 books long so I can continue staying in this world because it was amazing. I felt like I was in the book. It was so good. The next book that I read was The Mistake by Elle Kennedy, which is the second book in the Off-Campus series. I rated this book 4 stars. This follows John Logan. So call him Logan. Just call him Logan. That's what he goes by. It follows Logan and Grace. Grace is a freshman. They have this little night together and Grace almost loses her V card to Logan. And she regrets it. And then Logan's like, holy crap, wait, I actually really like Grace. Like, I want her back. But she's like, no, I hate you. Like, stay away from me. Because Logan fucked up. Logan messed up. And so then he's trying to grovel for her. Like usual. Did I already say I rated this 4 stars? Who knows? But I did enjoy this. But here's my little nitpicky things about this. Logan irked me so much in this book because I absolutely loved him in The Deal. I loved him. I was like, I'm so excited to read his book. But then in this book, he was just an idiot. He's literally just an idiot. So freaking stupid. He has no brain and he doesn't know how to think. He just pissed me off for like half of the book. So he really irked me with that. I loved Grace though. Grace was a powerful woman. I loved her. She was so sweet and I loved her. That's basically it. And then also, I think the biggest thing was the third act conflict. I was like, why did that even happen? Because you could have made a way better third act conflict than what happened in this book. It was the most pointless thing I've ever freaking read. And I just don't think that it was needed, or you could have made something so much better than what happened. And it literally made me so pissed off reading the book during that time. So obviously I brought it down to a 4 star. I definitely like The Deal more. But I'm so excited to continue reading the series because the score I'm so excited to read. I just think some of the things in this book could have been done better. Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I honestly didn't think I was going to read this month, and I'm so freaking happy I did. I'm so freaking happy I did. This book is so good. This book and Icebreaker may be my favorite books of the month. This follows Daisy. She's a girl coming of age in LA. She wants, to make a name for herself. She wants to become a singer, actress, whatever. She wants to make a name for herself. And then there's also the Six. It's a band. They are up and coming. They are getting so popular. And I think it's their manager. It's like, hey, there's this girl, Daisy Jones. Like, y'all need her in your band. Like, y'all need to collab with her because it's going to be so good. And they're like, yeah, might as well. So then Daisy Jones and the Six join forces. So good. And I loved how this book was written. It was written in like a interview way. Like, it felt like I was actually talking to the characters. And the little bitty plot twist at the end, it was so good. It was so freaking good. I loved this book so freaking much. I think they're coming out with like a show or a movie on this, and I'm watching. I also heard that they put the music on Spotify. Oh my god. This book is so freaking good. No, I take it back. This is my favorite book of the month. I feel like they're real people. I read Ricochet by Kristen Becker Ritchie. This is the second book in the Addicted series. The whole series follows Lily and Lo. Lily is addicted to sex and Lo's addicted to alcohol, and it just follows their relationship. I don't want to spoil anything in this one, but I did end up rating it 3.5 stars. It was good. It was enjoyable, but I wanted more of Lo. That's it. I wanted more Lo. I missed him. The phone calls? The freaking phone calls. I am coming to love all of the characters so much just from this book that's under 300 pages. It really opens up the characters more, so it's definitely like, read this book. It's so good, but it's like, I miss Lo. The next book is The Vanishing Star by Maureen Johnson. This is basically follows a Truly Devious murder in 1936. That's what Truly Devious follows. It's the second book in the Truly Devious series. I'm not going to go into depth about this, but I did enjoy this one so much more than Truly Devious. and I can't wait to read the next book in the series. It left on such a cliffhanger, and I cannot wait to read it. It's so good. I rated it 4 stars. It was so much better than Truly Devious. This one caught my attention so much more. I wanted to read it all the time. And yeah, I'm so excited to continue on with the series because I love Stevie so much. She's just amazing. And we didn't get much of the romance in here, which is disappointing. So I'm hoping in the next book we get more romance. But still, even without the romance, this book was so good. So I loved it. The last and final book that I read in January was Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. This was my other 5-star read of the month. I did not think I was going to love this book as much as I did. Loved it so much. This follows Amelia, and she has a twin sister. They're both witches. Victoria ends up getting murdered. And then, obviously, she's like, I'm going to find your killer, sis. I'm going to get vengeance. And she ends up meeting Wrath, one of the wicked. And he's a prince of hell. And they work together to stop the murders and find out who's murdering these witches. And let me tell you right now, Wrath has me giggling, has me feeling things. It's literally it. Just has me feeling things. I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. And Wrath, dude, I can't stop talking about Wrath because he's literally amazing. He's so sexy. He's so sexy. He's so amazing. I love this. I love this. And then, obviously, my current read right now is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I'm only 100 pages in, so I can't really tell you much because I started it last night. But I am enjoying it. So, that is all the books that I read in January. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. And please go watch my February TBR video because that one was chaotic. I'm just staring at them right now, and they're staring back at me, and I have so many books to read in a short month. So it's fine. It's fine. But yes, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you when I see you. Bye-bye.